Well, hello, it's the horror nerd here again. At the moment, I'm heading towards the Screwheads Mutant Circus. It's headed by Dan and Andrew. Half xenomorph, half human hybrids that run this circus for homeless mutants throughout the lands of the horror community. I'm gonna be spending the night there. I hope the Screwheads invite me in without any problems. Because I don't like problems. Here is their tent. Their tent looked like the average circus tent, but it was burgundy red. Hello, Dan and Andrew? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Said a voice from inside the tent. Out stepped Andrew. The best way to describe Dan and Andrew would be the love child between a xenomorph, Captain Spaulding, and Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, but hello there, horror nerd. What an honor to meet you. I heard you want to seek shelter here during the night.
Yes, I do.
Well, then I'm happy to welcome you in. I wonder if you'd be interested in reviewing Halloween 5 with me and Dan. I love me a good movie talk.
That sounds great.
Well, great. Let's go in and talk Halloween 5.
So, what are your thoughts on Halloween 5?
So I honestly liked it a lot more than I thought I would. It's been a long time. I think I talked with you about it earlier. I originally kind of forgot about 5. I actually skipped from 4 directly to H2O when I watch it, but I was kind of pleasantly surprised. It's actually when I think about it more, it's a really bad movie, but in the moment I didn't hate it as much.
It's what I noticed on rewatch after watching H4 like 4 days ago is that this one is way more competent shot. I feel it feels like especially for a movie that it seems like so many people didn't care about, it feels more better shot in a way.
Yeah, it definitely, and some of the shots did impress me, like the laundry chute scene at the very end with Jamie. Apparently that took them an entire day to film, just those few shots with her hanging down the laundry chute. And the way they filmed it is they built the laundry chute horizontal and they had the side cut out so they could film her from there.
Oh. And Daniel Harris also got hurt in that scene. They cut her up. They cut up her leg by accident with a kitchen knife. So she actually gave blood for this movie.
Well, yeah, I'd heard that to film that, they actually used a real piece of metal and a knife, and she was actually there with a knife going at her when they were filming that, which seems really risky.
It was really risky, and it's I just watched a lot of interviews about Friday the 13th. Wait, I have to throw out the cat. He's making noise. I don't know if you can hear it, but you're not the sound editor I asked for. Oh, bye, kitty. Ghost looks so surprised when I throw him out, like, why? So, but I watched a lot of Friday the 13th interviews behind the scenes, and there was also cases of not the best security. So I don't know if it was a thing during 80s low budget movies that security and safety and all that stuff was out the window.
Yeah, no, I think that is definitely a symptom of the era, because I feel like so many of them had such a shoestring budget. They didn't really have a lot of money to buy stunt doubles or to do these crazy effects. A lot of the times they took kind of risks in how they filmed things because it looked better and it was cheap. So
yeah, one example I think of is Friday the 13th Part 2, when he breaks through the door with the pitchfork. That door wasn't properly secured, so he broke his wrist.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, but what do you think about the start of the movie? Him crawling down going down the river like a giant Moses and ending up in an old guy's cave.
Yeah, I couldn't take that seriously at all. I thought like as soon as you see him like floating down on his back and just kind of getting blown away, I'm like, wow, Michael Myers, you're really not scary anymore, are you? Like, and I feel like his mask was really bad then too. That scene like really kind of took me out of it.
I agree. Yeah, it felt a little bit rubber shoot, a little bit slapstick on that front. It also changed up the ending a little bit from Halloween 4 because Halloween 4 did not have him toss the stick of dynamite down there. Like in the original Halloween 4, I was just like, okay, he gets shot a bunch of times and fall down the hole. Oh, okay, that's very believable that he's going to come on back. But man, if they'd showed that stick of dynamite, I would have been like, all right, I can believe that this is the end of Halloween 4, even though it really wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
A stick of dynamite makes more sense for a guy that can take 6 bullets.
Yeah.
But I like the scene where it's like crawling through the cave, but the moment he hits the river, it's ridiculous. He just floats down the river.
It's so weird because he's like incapacitated in that moment, and we see him survive so much other stuff that the fact that he would just get like taken by water, it's just like this this like Terminator character is just like caught in the water and almost basically drowns to death. Like imagine if that's how he died. Then he crawled out of the water and drowned. Oh,
maybe he has diamond skin, and that's the only thing that can kill him.
You know, it's like then what is it, Freddy versus Jason, where we learn that Jason's weakness is water, even though he lives in Camp Crystal Lake. Same idea, right? Michael's weakness is water.
I mean, Jason being scared of water is like if we were scared of our wolves.
Yeah.
But yeah, he goes to this old guy, collapses in front of him, and the old guy's like, yeah, he's gonna live with me for a year now.
Right.
Do you watch Cody Leach?
I do not know.
No, I don't think so.
No, he had a very interesting theory about why the homeless man or the caveman had Michael Myers in his cave for a year. And that's, how do I put it? I don't want to put it as explicit as he does, but let's say he didn't need a certain magazine for a year.
Yeah, see that was really kind of confusing because like we a year passes and theoretically we are assuming this guy's like feeding Mike and stuff and like
taking care of him, bathing him, all that stuff for an entire year. Like it's very weird.
And mind you, this is after Mike tried to choke him, right? Because Mike tries to choke him and passes out, and he's like, "I'm gonna keep him." Like, what the hell?
No, just hearing the Herbert the Pervert voice. Hi, come sleepy with me.
Yeah, I couldn't take that seriously. But
yeah, it's and you brought up the mask, so we might as well talk about it. It's god awful. It could work. I could see it work in a way, but in this movie it doesn't. It's just it has this elongated face for some reason. I don't know why it has a Michael Bay face.
It does feel very like, I feel like around the neck it feels very loose. But I will say the one thing, like I know that it's not a good mask, but parts of Halloween 4 always annoyed me because I think his mask was very white and very clean, kind of like it is in Resurrection. And I liked that this dirtied it up a little bit. But yeah, it fit really terribly. And I feel like it almost looked like the hair grew when he puts it back on after he kills the hermit guy. I was like, did they make the hair grow on the mask? Like it looks like disheveled and like longer than it was before. And that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's another thing too I noticed. Just for some reason, Michael Myers' hair is so much longer in this one, and there's such much more of an emphasis on it. Even before he takes the mask off, I was just like, okay, what was the direction there? Were they just getting lazy with the mask or what?
Punk rocker direction, maybe.
Yeah.
he decides to be a hippie. I don't know. That's a best way to describe the mindset behind the script. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll do something. He's a hippie now. Who knows? This movie has effort at parts, I feel, and at other parts they didn't care at all. The most prevalent part of not caring is Donald Pleasence.
Oh god.
He doesn't care one bit in this movie. The only scenes where he cares is where he can ham it up, really.
Hmm.
All right, I wouldn't say that's true. You have some good dramatic scenes that it shows that he cared. And that's like 5% of the scenes with him. The rest of the scenes with him is him being really bored, waiting for paycheck day, or going completely Looney Tunes because I don't care about this thing. I might as well have a lot of fun with this thing. To the point of traumatizing a 9-year-old.
It is really weird that he's like, I'm assuming he must have signed like a 3-picture contract, because I know he for 4 he was really hesitant to come back. So it's weird that he then was in these 2 like shit shows following this. And I feel like this one most of all is the one like where he's off the wall insane.
Yeah, because 6 was the last one he was ever in. So
yeah, and it must have been a 3-picture deal. And it's the entire Halloween franchise is very weird when it comes to contracts and all that stuff because between 5 and 6 it kind of changed owners. Akkad was still producer on it, but the Weinsteins had bought the rights. But here he completely owned it. So I don't know. Maybe the contract didn't change the contract in the transition between owners. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, what are you gonna say?
Oh no, you go.
But Donald Pleasant in this movie, he just he doesn't care. I do enjoy that his scar keeps mutating. That's a very interesting scar, I have to say.
I actually noticed the same thing. Yeah, because I feel like it was very different in 4. He had this like weird like thing on his cheek that was like, I don't know, had like it was like a circle or something. Like, yeah, it's changed a lot.
And it changed 4 times during 4, I think, if I counted right. And all the times it got smaller. So my working theory is that this is in the same universe as the X-Men and they can just regenerate.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, if all of these, either that or this is all one big connected horror universe with Evil Dead, and to hunt down Michael Myers, he tracked down the Necromonicon somewhere in the woods of Tennessee or Michigan, read from it to give himself regenerative powers, and that's why the scars keeps changing, because Loomis has made himself immortal. I just want a scene where Loomis walks up to Ash and like, find me the book. Where's the book?
You know, he gets the Curse of Thorn at the end of the producer's cut of 6, so maybe that's where that comes from.
I don't know. The funny thing in part 6, he says that he has had plastic surgery for the scar. Like, why was that necessary? It clearly mutates and changes all the time. And he
doesn't want to pay for makeup. Yeah.
And he has this. What was I gonna say?
No, you go.
He has this Freddy Krueger-esque to the makeup this time, and the makeup is made by K&B, and this is one of the first K&B shows. Their first show was in February of 1988 when they started out with Intruder, and was one of the later ones. I don't know if this was before or after they made Merging Freddy in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. So there is a Freddy Krueger connection to Loomis.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's right. After the cave scene, we also see that Jamie has become mute. So what do you think about that? They made this character decision.
Like, I think it makes sense, the fact that she's kind of traumatized. It is weird that they retconned her killing her foster mom. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, I was really upset about that because that's very much a Tommy Jarvis sort of Friday the 13th thing. And I really wanted them to explore, okay, now we got this little girl killer. That would have been so much more interesting than what we actually got. And apparently Donald Pleasance was on the same train too. He was really upset that they didn't go with that plot line at the end of Halloween 4.
Yeah.
I remember hearing some explanation from Akkad why that was. I don't remember the exact details, but I think it was, don't quote me on this, but it was just, oh, Michael sells.
Yeah.
So let's throw Michael into this, which is, I mean, that conclusion you can draw from on your own, because yeah, he is the money grabber. And it's Halloween franchise is so fascinating for me because it's the only franchise that I know of where they constantly try to get away from the main killer as the focus.
Mm-hmm.
And always failing because they realize our killer has to be the main focus in order to get the money. So it's the most bizarre decision that keeps popping up. In Season of the Witch, it made sense because Carpenter didn't want to continue with Myers. But after that, he just said, oh, fuck it. I don't care about the Halloween franchise anymore. Here, a card. But they keep doing that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand that decision.
Mm-hmm. It is really weird, especially after, like, you know, in the movie titled The Return of Michael Myers, they more or less set it up for Michael to leave again. There's like, oh yeah, that's what a great idea. Everyone's so hyped to bring this character back. Let's get rid of him and put somebody else in his place. Though admittedly, I will say, like, I'm glad that he came back to, like, I think back then obviously I wasn't alive during that time, but I think, like, I wouldn't have been pleased. Like, I'm sure a lot of fans wouldn't have been pleased to lose Mike at that point. Just like, I don't know, when I saw Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and at the end Laurie became like the new Michael, or like they're implying that, I was just like, oh God, shut the fuck up. Like, I wanted none of that. So I could see people back then having that same reaction.
Yeah, and it's, for me, it should have been Loomis that should have been the crazy murderer at the end of 4. It made more sense. Yeah, Jamie is blood connected, but in 4, I never felt that setup for her being a killer. It never felt like that. Loomis, on the other hand, really felt like that because he was getting more and more insane, more and more unhinged, and he had that connection to Myers that was more deeper for us viewers. So, and you could have brought up, I have mentioned this in the podcast before, evil transference. It sounds silly, but hey, we're in the Fawn Freddy territory now. Silly is something you don't, silly is expected. So do you think that they should have gone with evil Dr. Loomis that kills people?
Like, I feel like it would have been a good idea. I think, especially at the end of 5, I think the way 5 went, I feel like when he became almost a villain in 5, I could definitely have seen that. Like, at the end of 4, I could see the turn, but I think 5 would have been the one to justify that and have that happen, because he seemed really unhinged. And I feel like that's what the Halloween 2018 did. I think part of what that does is it cribs from so many of these movies. Like in Halloween Kills, like, it's doing the exact same thing, just ripping off parts from the older movies that they're same claiming don't exist. But the one, like, having Sartain in there and have Sartain be the crazy Loomis, but without any of that knowledge of who Sartain was prior, I think that was them trying that out. But, you know, obviously with a character who's not established, it's kind of pointless. But I think it could have worked. But yeah, how about you guys?
Yeah, I think so too, definitely. I'd like the idea of evil corrupts and the evil transferring to another person in the particular vernacular, because Loomis has always been very obsessive over Michael, and I think they could work it in some way to, Loomis is so obsessed with Michael that he ends up becoming him to fully understand him or something like that. I could see that working.
Yeah, and it's and after we discovered that they made, unless you won't have anything more to say on evil Loomis theory plot idea.
No, keep going.
And after that after we discovered that Jamie is a mute in the movie, we move on to the introduction of Tina, which is, yeah, that face explains what's your I have actually, in the horror community, I've only come across one person that kind of likes Tina as a character. And that's the other ones has an opinion to match your face expression.
Yeah, no, I feel like Tina is such like a lost opportunity of a character. She's treated as if we should know her, and it's like it's weird too because I know that Rachel was it was supposed to die, or like was supposed to die, or they planned for her to die. But I
Mhm.
know that she didn't want, like, the actress didn't want her to die that way. But it almost feels like Tina is like as if, like, the actress Rachel quit and they put her in her place, because like the familiarity she has with Jamie throughout the movie uh is really awkward. Like she never actually asks like, oh, where's my adoptive sister? She's so into Tina, and Tina's such a big character for no reason. I think that's what makes her so aggravating, is because she's like an idiot at times. She like Loomis is like, oh, you should be careful, and she's like, no, I'm never careful. Like, she's such an idiot. But then
Mm.
she's also pushed to us as if we should care about her for very little development. um so yeah, I think I can't stand her.
And replacing her with Rachel, which actually was a good character, that they actually made good attempts at trying to make likable, trying to have a connection with the audience. To replace her with boom pada is a horrendous decision. And it was it that the actress didn't want out. Oh yeah, it's like why do that decision? It's this movie consists of, you can see where a good decision could have been made, but they decided to go with the worst option, and you can't find a single reason to back that up why they did that. It's so bizarre. It's like nobody knew what they were doing on this movie production.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Dan, what did you think of her?
Yeah, I completely agree. The director, just from doing some casual research on this movie, apparently they wanted Rachel to be killed off very, very early just to set in no one's really safe in these movies. Anybody can die. But yeah, what they replaced Rachel with was someone significantly less interesting and a lot more annoying. And it's just, yeah, it felt very undeserved.
How do you guys feel about that? Because I was thinking about that kind of trend. This made me think about, like, Alice in Friday the 13th Part 2. So, main character from Part 1 dies. Kincaid and them, and Joey and them from Dream Warriors. Like, I feel like this is a common thing that a lot of movies do, where they'll kill off uh, the hero from the last film. Like, how do you guys feel about that trend? Like, I feel like it can be done well. Like, I feel like with Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, it was done well. It was part of her character development to, kind of pass on at the end.
Mm.
But do you guys think that that's like a cheap way to kind of, like, as Dan said, to the nobody's safe rule? Or do you think it's just like they don't know what else to do with that character? Like, what do you guys feel about that trend
I
that seems to happen?
think there's two things you just got to really ask yourself. Is that character's arc finished? This is a satisfying place to kill them off, and you're not just killing them off for the sake of killing them off? Does it serve some sort of purpose to the story? And then two, make sure whoever you're replacing them with, whatever the main character is, can carry it on their own. Like, is pretty interesting by itself. And Tina was not that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it depends on in what context, and it depends on who they replace the person with. In Friday 2, I have no problem with it because I really like Ginny, and the same thing with Dream Warriors. In this one, I don't really like it, and here it suffers from the two problems. Feels very out of context, and Rachel is replaced with a less significantly interesting character that is really annoying. So
Mm-hmm.
it all depends on that. Can it feel cheap sometimes? Yes, but all that depends in which way the storytellers decides to justify it and what context they put it in, as I said before. So to get my opinion on it, you gotta almost go from case to case, because I can't really form on top of my head a significant reason or a significant opinion on it.
And do you guys feel that Rachel's death was, like, good? Like, to me, what irked me about it was I thought in Halloween 4, she was such a good character. She's such a strong character. And in this movie, she, like, walks around without pants on. And then,
Mm-hmm.
like for the traumatized Jamie we get a very cool and chill Rachel who doesn't seem to, like, have not suffered, but doesn't seem to have any, like, I don't know, emotional scars or like awareness after being hunted. Essentially, like it seems like she's not like aware and not afraid at all. You would think that she would be after what happened to her.
Yeah, I agree. She does not seem to really fit what she went through in Halloween 4.
No,
It feels like somewhat of a different character.
and I mean, the death scene is kind of similar. It's not. It's even worse than in Friday the 13th Part 2. But Friday the 13th Part 2 also has that same way that like Alice, the strong female lead that decapitated a person with one blow, gets killed in the kitchen while making tea. And it's the same thing here. She this prevalent guardian of Jamie gets killed off while changing clothes. It's very bleh. And yeah, I don't know, it feels just weird.
Yeah.
And it could be with the same thing as with Friday the 13th Part 2, because with Friday the 13th Part 2, they didn't really have, according to Adrian King, they didn't even have a script for that kill-off scene.
Oh.
So it could be the similar thing in H5, that they didn't really have an idea, they just went for something. Because
I think that I did hear that they were still writing the script as it was going on. So like I think like you're right. I think it wasn't really planned.
No, so it could be the same thing here, because there when I start to think about it, there exists a lot of parallels between this one and Friday Part 2, even though Friday Part 2 is a good movie. It's just, this is a worst case scenario Friday Part 2, you could say, because Friday Part 2 was a messy set. Nobody had any idea what they were doing. If Friday Part 2 was shot today, people would be in jail because of it, most likely. And in this one, it's I don't know the details behind the scenes, but it feels like the same thing, but the product that turned out was a massive blunder. And you have other scenes that feels like they had an idea where to go with it, and then they just went nowhere with it. Like when she gets chased through the basement, it feels so clearly that this was supposed to be a suspense scene, but no, it's just a janitor. And that could have been a fake out from the beginning. That could have been the original plan, but it feels like they just stopped having idea for the scenes, so just ended like that. And maybe that's the same thing with racial stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenes in here, especially a couple near the beginning, where it's just very clearly they had a jump scare quota that they needed to fill, so they kept on going with it. And that I never like that. I think jump scares for the sake of jump scares are not entertaining.
It's a really cheap way of making this movie frightening, because you're taking advantage of basic predatory defense skills that the human brain have in the most cheap way you can possibly do. So yeah, you will get a reaction out of someone. That's not the reaction you want, but you're just satisfied with the reaction. So yeah, it goes to show that the director is satisfied with the least results.
That's a good point.
And then after that we get the cops. I don't know who ideas.
Okay, so I actually do have a little bit on that front. So apparently the cops just being complete idiots and comedy, that was supposed to be a reference to Last House on the Left. I found that out just somewhere online. I don't quite understand how else that fits in, but yeah, that was intentional.
Sorry, you go.
No, you can go. You can go. I was just contemplating reality.
I was gonna say, like, the music they play is what kills me when they walk out, and it's like that, it reminds me of the music. If you guys ever watched the original Power Rangers, like the American
the
version,
Skull.
Exactly, it's the Bulk and Skull music. It's like the wah, 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 and they're just like, this is this girl just got murdered, or like, almost got murdered, and they're like playing this like comedic music, and the guy's like, we save the girls and we find the dog, and it's just like, what the hell is going on? Like, I feel like there are, I think a lot of great 80s and 70s kind of slash movies have these comedic moments, but this just felt like a complete genre switch for like 5 seconds, just to walk back into what they were doing. And it just was really awkward and jarring and made you hate those characters immediately.
Mhm.
And then again, they reminded me of the two cops from Halloween 2018, and it made me even more mad because they just steal everything from other movies.
But in 2018, the two cops got a amazingly macabre death.
Yeah, their death was a lot better.
In this one, it's Howard Berger put some like jello on the guy and called it a day.
Yeah.
And it's they should have gotten the deaths of Christopher Alan Nelson's character in Officer Francis in 2018.
Yeah.
And and in this one, I mean, this is from 1989, and this is the slasher genre was going downhill pretty fast. It was a sinking Titanic, and nobody cared about the movies anymore. You just put this in perspective. You had Jason Takes Manhattan, Nightmare Part 5, and Halloween Part 5 all within the same year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's not a good time to be a horror fan.
It's and I mean, as Ricky Glore said in the interview I did, that horror was still going strong. You have great horror movies from the time, but it's a slasher genre that hurt.
Yeah.
And that didn't get a shot it needed until 96. So this is the start of the Dark Ages. This is year 410 when the Western Roman Empire fell. And you can just see it, that it's all the creative effort from the golden era, or creative effort of 80s slasher. A lot of times put it in quotes, but there's no effort here. It's just falling apart in front of your eyes.
Yeah, I definitely ran out of ideas at this point, I think.
And I don't know who. I say that this movie has no effort, but somebody showed effort. There are some scenes where you see it. You have some great musical score. You have some. I love the scene with the car when he's chasing Jamie.
Oh yeah, in the woods.
Yeah, I just love that scene, and I love the scene where he talks with Michael. So for some bizarre, for some bizarre reason, they showed effort for like 10 minutes. I don't know why, because it's like, if you're gonna make a turd, then go all the way. I feel, because now you have a turd that has some effort put into it, which makes it a frustrating turd. Just want a turd.
Well, I think it almost feels like the end of this movie had better ideas. I feel like the end of this movie was kind of what they wanted. They knew how they wanted to end it, and they had to kind of make up how to get there. Because I agree with you. I think those scenes where they talk and stuff are strong. That's probably why, again, Rob Zombie kind of cribbed those for Halloween 2 a little bit, like the Loomis trying to appeal to Michael scene and stuff. I think those were good ideas and good concepts. But I think everything leading up to that, like everything up until I think the car chase that you mentioned, is kind of
Now, what I find so interesting about the car is you see that it's stick shift. Not only can he drive a car, not only can he drive a tow truck that is gigantic, he knows how to drive manual, which is interesting. Maybe the car, if you go by Halloween 6 logic, that the cult leader psychiatrist taught him to drive a car, maybe taught him to drive stick shift. I don't know. It's all very confusing how this man knows how to operate all of this equipment.
It's important. He doesn't know what car he'll steal. He needs to know how to do both.
He has become some kind of mastermind of mechanics throughout the years. Very, very bizarre.
Michael Myers driving the car. What? Fun fact too. So apparently, in the scene where Tina gets into the car with Michael Myers and she thinks it's her boyfriend, originally they were supposed to use a Ronald Reagan mask instead. And somebody said, no, you can't use that because it gets too political.
I just love it. Someone that made a horror movie said, no, that's too political. I just love it. Horror, especially in the 70s and 80s, the most political genre I could find, and someone said, nah, not Ronald Reagan going around killing people.
Yeah, that
He,
would have been great though.
yeah, I mean, there you go. Do a scene where Michael Myers in a Ronald Reagan mask kills someone with an economics book.
Trickle down there, bitch. And now I'm just remembering Dude Bro Party Massacre 3. God, what a great movie that is.
Such a good movie.
He kills 3 people. Everyone is a bit smaller with an economics book while wearing a Reagan mask. That's on the nose, but it would have been great. But now we transition to the card to the other Michael in the movie, the kind of greaser-looking character.
Mhm.
All the 80s movies had greasers in them because the 45-year-olds that made the movies in 1988 thought, oh, that's the cool guy. Even though he would have been a punk rocker, not a greaser, but
Mhm.
it goes to show that once you hit 45, you have no idea about the youth around you. Stop seeing them. But what do you think about the side characters in this one? I feel they're very disposable.
Yeah, I would agree. There really isn't much to them.
Yeah, I feel like most of them like were bordered on just being annoying. Like, yeah, Michael, and then who was it? Samantha, and I can't remember what the blonde guy's name was. Spitz, something like. Yeah, they were all. You just knew as soon as they walked on screen, it's like, all right, you're all gonna die.
Yeah.
But they had some okay deaths though. Like, what do you guys think about Mike's deaths? Like, or good Mike.
Was he the Pittsburgh guy?
He was the little rake, the garden rake to the face.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that was an okay death. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I do like how they set it up with Michael fucking with him by the car first, and then that's that.
And when it comes to kill scenes, I always put it in the perspective of the makeup artist that did the kill scenes to show so I can compare to what they really can do, or what the worst examples is depending on the movie. And in this case, they had K and B. And sure, this is what K and B when they were first starting out. And I just feel that they could have made so much more, even back then when they were basically working out of, I think, Greg's garage or something like that. And they had made, or was gonna make, Merging Freddy. They had made Intruder with their OG bread slicer kill. I think it's a bread slicer. And so they could pull off that crazy K&B makeup that is in all of these movies. And all we see is like puncture wounds.
Yeah, it was a bit tame. They could have definitely. I think it could have gone to the eye. The fact they didn't go through the eyes or something was weird to me because they went through the forehead, which Michael seems to love foreheads. Like he stuck his thumb through that one guy's forehead in part 4. Like I feel like that. Yeah, like the opportunity that was really missed there with that. It could have like gone the eyes and ripped out or something. Like, yeah, I agree with you there.
Like put it in the forehead and pull his face off.
Yeah, that could have been cool. Like a weed, right? Just kind of rip it out.
And but yeah, it's yeah, the gore was pretty. It's the same as the mask, pretty tame. And it's Michael Myers' death scenes have always been a roller coaster ride of quality, because Jason has always, at least from my perspective, been the killer that that always has this imaginative death. From day one, he has killed people in interesting ways. Michael Myers goes up and down. Sometimes he just do puncture wounds. Sometimes he does thumb war in the forehead, and which is great. And then you move up to the even greater ones with Tyler Mane and Jude Courtney, which just has that brutality that's so hard to beat. And so his quality of kills are all over the place. Yeah, and a slasher movie, you should always expect great kills, because in a lot of cases you're gonna get shit characters, gonna get shit writing, and shit acting in worst case scenarios. And and then you gotta make up for it with like imaginative death scenes, or have characters that you care about, and see them die, so you feel like a connection. And in this one, it's bad writing, it's bad acting, it's bad characters combined with bad kills, and that's the least thing you want with your slasher movie. You gotta showcase your ingenuity in some case, and this just didn't.
I definitely agree with you there. Like, and I feel like with me, like with Michael Myers, like I honestly don't really consider much of any of his movies, because I feel like I just kind of see him as that force of nature, like the guy with the knife who goes around and stabs people. And so for him, I'm actually not expecting as much creativity, but it just looks so bad when you see him kill people without anything. Like, I don't know, like you said, I think Jason is known for being creative. Like, Jason's the Boy Scout, like on the camp. Like Freddy's the Dream Master, and Michael's just kind of a white collar guy with a chef's knife. And so, like, for me, it kind of goes back and forth, where he has a great kill, which is nice and creative, and then he looks ridiculous sometimes when he, like, for example, when I see him with a scythe, I'm just like, that looks so stupid. Like,
yeah, Michael to me has always kind of been the brutal, he's just going to kill you, he doesn't care how it's done, he'll use anything at his disposal, but he doesn't really want to get creative about it. He's just like, I have one mission, and that is to kill.
And I feel like 4, 5, and 6 are really what kind of make him that superhero. Like when he takes out those, like, I think 4 is a pretty good movie, but when he takes out the kill squad on the back of that pickup truck, I was always just like, oh my God, like nobody can shoot him. Come on, guys. Like that's to me, Michael works best as an assassin. That's the way I like to see him. Like when he walks behind somebody and gets him. But like when I see him, like you just kind of mentioned, like the smack somebody in the head with a garden rake. It's not, to me, it takes away the fun of the kill, and especially when you see him walking up to them, just kind of like making his way up and like, oh, here we go. That I can't take him seriously.
No, and I think that until Rob Zombie and Gordon Green came onto the series, they misused Michael. I mean, technically, Zombie and Green also misused Michael, but the way they misused him was in a great way, if that makes sense. Because in the original movie, he's a stalker. As you said, he's an assassin. He comes up behind. He's an ambush predator. Sure, he's that in the other ones to an extent, but not in the same way. Way more of a prowler, way more of a stalker, and that is what Carpenter visioned, because he's really a mid-sized build, scrawny 21-year-old, and in all the other ones they tried to make him more like Jason, and that was the wrong thing to do, because he was never supposed to do that. Zombie was the first one that really took it and made something usable out of that idea. Sure, it's still misusing him, but you really feel him like a force of nature. Freaking 7-foot tall file cabinet coming at you that you can't stop. And then Courtney, on paper, a middle-sized grandpa, but just the pure, the anger of a chimpanzee in mating. So yeah. And then let's see now, what more should we talk about? The Halloween party scene and the barn scene. We kind of glanced over it, but what's your fullest thought on those scenes?
So the thing is, they go to a party, then they go to a barn, and I think, if I remember correctly, it was they wanted to kind of fuck in the barn, or were they just there to see the kittens?
So originally they left the party because Spitz had this genius idea to like pretend to be Michael Myers and chase the 2 girls in front of the 2 idiot cops, which would
let's talk about that for a second. Can we do that?
That got you shot to shit.
Because that is a plot point that continuously pops up in the Thorn trilogy, of just like someone decided to dress up as Michael Myers and then go, it's just a prank, bro. It's just a prank. Like, how fucking stupid are you? This is ridiculous.
Plus, why would they keep selling those masks after a serial murder during one night? Sure, now I'm probably thinking out of a modern perspective. I never saw the 70s and 80s, I don't know how that worked, but it still feels like those things would be off the shelves the moment they knew that the murderer was wearing that mask, because you don't want to sell something that is connected to a serial killer
Mm-hmm.
that you do in 20 years when the museum starts popping up.
Well, especially too when like the fact that they do this when these police guys are on a detail to specifically stop this guy, it's just it like I would have loved if Spitz died right there. Like he should have died right there. And I guess maybe that's the point there, was to make you okay with him dying, and okay, because like, you know, theoretically in a lot of these movies they don't really kill good people very often, and if they do, it's supposed to be like a dramatic thing. And I think this was just kind of to hammer home that Sam and Spitz were disposable by making them do this. And I guess also Tina as well, to kind of be like, oh look, Tina has some maybe not great parts about her, which we already knew, but let's show you more of that.
Mm. Yeah, it's I was gonna say something, but I lost it. So Dan, do you have any more thoughts on this one where I try to recover my thoughts?
No, not particularly on that. I thought it was just weird. That was just like, okay, so now we're focusing on hunting down these kittens. I hope they don't kill the cats, and they didn't, thankfully, because you don't do that. You don't kill the animals.
Well, they kill the dog in every movie. What are you talking about?
Awesome. Okay, that's
true. Michael kills dogs all the time.
Yeah, it's the Halloween franchise and Stephen King.
Yep.
They kill dogs all the time.
That website, Does the Dog Die, is just every Halloween movie. Like, Michael eats it in this one. In this one, he might eat it. In this one, he just kills it. We don't know what's going on in this one. Why does he eat dogs? Where does that ever come? Why does
I don't know. The word dog food maybe confused him. I don't know.
Yeah, I would love to just have him like go through a drive-through and like cut off some guy's arm and take their McDonald's and walk away. And just like as he's trolling through town in his new car, just like pull up, you know. That's what I want.
All right, I have completely lost my train of thought, but let's bring up the grandma.
Okay.
Why is there a random grandma at a party for teenagers? I
can't tell you.
I just love it. And there's no reason to have that shot. They just out of nowhere show a grandma. Is it Benjamin Button syndrome? Is that in that universe? How? And she looked so confused. It was like maybe someone's grandma walked on set and was like, "Oh my, this is not the knitting party I was promised."
It's a quirky thing, but again, it's also kind of that weird question. It's like, just like with the cops, where it's kind of like, is this them trying to be funny randomly, or is it like maybe it was a really good costume? Maybe that's what we're missing out. Maybe that was like a 12-year-old in a very good costume, just like living it up.
Maybe that's Mystique, and this is in the same universe as X-Men.
There we go. More fire for that fuel.
Yeah. Let's keep that connection rolling. And this is the part of the movie where we start to show more effort from the director. I don't know what happened. Maybe this was shot earlier and he has lost interest because of a troubled production later. Because once we get out of that goddamn barn, because I think that the barn scene drags on far too long. I don't know why they need to sit cuddle with kittens. They bring nothing to the story. It just drags on that scene. But then once we get out of the scene, you actually see effort. You see good atmosphere shots, even with some fog. Sure, it's not fantastic, but it's something.
Yeah.
And you really start, and the same thing with when they're using Jamie as decoy. I like that scene. That's actually showing effort. So I'm wondering, why are some of these scenes showing effort where the rest of the movie drags like a snail?
That actually, well, I wonder if if they have two different units, maybe, because now that you mentioned that, like, other than Jamie appearing in her little, like, you know, seizures of Michaelness, she's not really with Tina most of the movie. So I could easily have seen them be two different units. One unit is filming these, you know, the ending half of the film, because Tina's not really present for most of the ending. Oh, she's dead, yeah, but Tina's not present for the ending half. So they could easily be two different units, and that could be the huge change. Because you're right, like, if I were to walk in at the first half of the movie and leave and come back, I would assume that the second half is a completely different movie, because everything feels very different.
Definitely. And what is interesting is that the second half is completely shot at night,
Hmm.
while the rest of it is shot at day. And the day scenes are the ones that drag, and the night scenes are the interesting ones. So maybe the director is a vampire. I don't know. It's yeah, it's very bizarre. And when it comes to showing effort, Daniel Harris shows effort once again in this movie. And I just, even though the writing for her is a bit over the top and the mute thing makes zero sense, she is still too good for this movie.
Hmm.
And it's I know that giant productions for a kid messes with your head. Even a project on this size most likely messes with your head as a kid. But it still feels like that she, with that acting talent, she should have been on the same level as the kid that played Elliot from E.T. because she's far too good for this series.
Well, and she did some like, she did those Disney movies after. She did Halloween again after. Like, yeah, I'm wondering. I don't know her personal history as much, but I do wonder how much she wanted to be in movies after, how much she wanted to kind of branch out. I'm not sure what she's up to these days, but
She do still horror movies. She was in Zombies Halloween, of course. She was in the Hatchet sequels. I don't know new movies. She does what I like to call con movies, where there's all these people that you see at cons signing autographs that made like two big movies in the 80s.
yeah,
Now all make B movies, where these guys that were basically stuntmen in makeup try to best to do dramatic acting. I know
She was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She had a small role in that.
oh really?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. The complete.
That's awesome. That's actually really impressive.
Yeah, Tarantino scooped her up.
Yeah.
Though I do like that you mentioned that. I think that is definitely a genre of movies, like the kind of has been or small role horror actor who becomes like you said, it either like kind of becomes a genre, like a prop at a con essentially, or who kind of is in these weird kind of movies that are not great.
Yeah, and it goes to show that you can be an actor. You can be an actor in two horror movies or even one horror movie, and it could be complete garbage. Then you quit your acting career, works as a real estate agent for 20 years, and then you just live off that garbage horror movie for the rest of your life, and you're living the life as well because it pulls in the money. You get to make Santa Claus versus Santa Boobs Part 6 as creepy guy standing in corner, and life is great. You make 5 of those every year. You go to 10 cons, and that's your life. You're famous on YouTube. Yeah, that's a career, and
Yeah.
that's a career for a lot of people. And so yeah, and so she has kind of ended up in that folder. I mean, she has done more stuff. It would be wrong of me to just brand her as that, just a B movie actress, because she really isn't.
Well, I think she's been more successful than a lot of those other people, though. I think like of that group we talked about, I think she is one of the more successful, but also I think she hasn't. I don't know. She hasn't gone over the edge in terms of ridiculousness. It's like I think she's in a nice place where like she's still making some movies and she's still doing some roles, but I don't think she's like. I think there's a lot people who've gone worse than her. I think she's okay in terms of her career path for that.
Yeah, and it's her and there's two different ways for those to go. On the more successful part, where you're not in Santa Boobs Part 7, or Santa Killer Boobs Part 7, where there's Daniel Harris, where you're more a mixture of those movies, but more high-end scale stuff. And then you're Adrian King, that has a winery and does paintings, and then sells that through that as a marketing tool.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the two paths that I know of, where you are not only just that, you're more of a success, if I can use that term.
Yeah, kind of profit off your legacy essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, because the slasher horror movies, that's a huge legacy to have, no matter what movie you were in. Unless you made something that nobody heard of. I don't think that the main lead in The Prowler, if that person went to a con and didn't have a booth, I don't think nobody would have stopped that person. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe there is a secret Prowler fan base, and I pissed them all off now, and they're gonna send me interesting emails.
No, that actually is a really good point, though. Like, I think that is a very unique thing to the horror and maybe comic book kind of genre, where like these very bit roles can become, like appearance careers essentially. Like I keep thinking about the guys from Supernatural, like the one who plays like the Winchester's dad, who like goes to like every con, and I was like, wow, you have an entire career after playing their dad, like the flashback version of their dad, the younger version of their dad. He goes to cons all the time, and you're just like, wow, that's your career now. And it's just insane how that happens.
And then you have Kevin Bacon, who is a huge movie star and never talks about horror.
No.
Well,
he did.
I don't know if
see that Tremors remake, but that
I don't know if he hates horror. I mean, he appears in horror. Or maybe I shouldn't say not talk about horror, because he appears in a lot of horror movies, and he has had a constant connection with horror. What I meant to say is Friday the 13th. He never talks about those good old days out in New Jersey. As far as I know, he has never brought that up.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about that. Though I wonder if it's like with Johnny Depp, where like with the Freddy's Dead movie, with that, like where they just assume that he doesn't want to do anything with it. And apparently they want him to come back. I think it in the remake. I can't remember. There's one where they want him to come back. I don't know, maybe it's part 3. And they just never asked him. They never they just thought he wouldn't want to do it. So they never asked him to come back. And he was just like, oh, okay. And that's why he appears in Freddy's Dead for that little scene, is because like they early in, I forget which movie it was, but maybe it was New Nightmare, where they just like didn't ask him if he wanted to be in it. And then, but he said he would have loved to be in it, but they never offered it because they thought he was so far beyond it at that point. So I wonder if maybe that's the same with Kevin Bacon, where they're just like, you don't want to be in a Friday the 13th movie. Like, why would you want to do that?
I mean, it's bizarre because in Depp's case, it makes more sense because Depp is a gigantic superstar. Bacon is a star, but he has always been connected to the horror genre, even on a more low-budget Blumhouse scale. So Bacon makes more sense. So it's very bizarre that he has never appeared in, or maybe he's just a guy that, that is behind me now. I'm just looking ahead. It could be that.
Now that rights thing's been resolved with them, I think it's being resolved for the Friday the 13th rights. Maybe he'll come back for the remake or for whatever they end up producing next. He'll pull Jamie Lee Curtis, except he'll come back with like a hole in his throat, and he'll be like, I'm good. I'm okay. Like
breathing through the hole.
Yeah. Like, have gone a tracheotomy.
Yeah. What is interesting is the thing with Friday the 13th, that the lawsuit has been resolved, has gone through the entire internet. You don't know what the original source on that is?
No.
What's that?
Corey Feldman was on a party, I think Saturday evening, most likely drunk, not confirmed. A guy walks up to him and says, "Hey, dude, have you heard that the Friday the 13th lawsuit has been resolved?" Corey Feldman responds, "Yeah, no, I haven't. That's awesome, dude." And then they parted ways, and that's the original source.
Oh, really? So it has been resolved, is what you're telling me. It's going to keep going.
If you believe a most likely cocaine-induced man that Corey Feldman randomly met at the party, it's definitely been resolved. That's where I get all the news. I just go around. I just fly out to LA and go all to the parties to meet all the cocaine-fueled guys, and like, guy, what's the news? And it's like, lots of snow today.
Well, I mean, Stephen King made Maximum Overdrive on cocaine, and like that is a masterpiece. So I think you can only produce gold when you're on cocaine.
Yeah, didn't he say like he doesn't remember writing Cujo at all because he was so doped up?
Yeah, one movie. Yeah, I can't remember which book it is. Yeah, it might be Cujo. But yeah, he's definitely done that.
It's Cujo and it's Tommyknockers. He doesn't remember writing those because he did lines of cocaine and he drank alcohol before writing, and then he just went into a whirlpool of riding in madness.
I mean, like if I wrote Tommyknockers, I'd probably also say that I was on cocaine and just pretend that never happened.
Yeah, Stephen King. I don't know if he hates Tommy Knockers, but he really dislikes that one.
It's not his best. I'm not gonna lie.
And James Wan wanted to do a remake, but that disappeared. I don't know what happened to that. Now he wants to remake Salem's Lot, which makes more sense.
Again? Oh my god. How many of those movies can we have? Oh no. Well, actually, that's only two, I guess. But yeah, I think if anybody could do it, James Wan would be a good person for that. Actually, I like his style.
If you go by Halloween 5 logic or Halloween franchise logic, we can do an endless. You can say ends and all that, and that is what I'm afraid that Halloween Ends is gonna be the final chapter of the Halloween franchise. There, it's gonna end.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Just
most
like-
likely gonna end for the original cast because they're in their 60s now.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like I hope if they're gonna bring back the Halloween franchise, it's first gonna be in 10 years after ends. Then she's gonna be in her 70s. Michael is gonna be in her 70s. I'm working off my lord. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I would pay to see a movie where like Jamie Lee Curtis is running away in a wheelchair and he has like a little walker coming after her, or he appears behind somebody in the walker and that's like how he comes out of the darkness. It's like or like on a little motorized like thing, like and like stabs them and backs up.
I just think of the Seinfeld episode where George is on a mobility scooter and gets chased down by the old people. Good to know you're going straight to hell at 5 miles per hour. Yeah, they're gonna recast Laurie with Betty White.
Makes sense.
I'd probably
She'll
watch
still be around
that.
for a while.
I'm not gonna lie. That might be amazing. I'd be into it.
Sharpman Walker on a tape to a mobility scooter. I just thought it randomly of an old man in town I saw once that he was driving in traffic with a mobility scooter.
Oh my gosh.
and he went flying through the roundabout
Oh my god.
on the mobility scooter, like full speed round the roundabout and then out through the exit and just kept going.
Must have been like souped up. That's awesome.
Dude was like 90 years
Awesome.
old. And he didn't even look at me. He had an objective. Yeah, it's that is how the Halloween franchise is going to. That is its fate.
That's the ultimate ending. Yeah.
Honestly, like after the Man in Black appears, I'm accepting anything that happens. But
Maybe this is gonna be our last topic for the evening. But what do you think about the Man in Black?
I honestly forgot he was in this movie when I was watching it. I remembered him from the 6. Obviously, he's annoying as hell there, but I keep forgetting that he appears in this movie. And in I think he appeared very briefly in 4, but I don't. Yeah, every time he appeared, I was just like kind of the eye roll of what's coming next. I will say though, and I think I may have messaged you and Dan about this, about like when I finished 5 and there's that scene with him shooting all the cops in the police department, it kind of made me want to go watch 6 again. I was just like, ooh, I'm drawn in for a minute there. So like, I think it's dumb, but I also think back then it was probably a really smart move because it did create a mystery of like, who the fuck is this guy and what is he doing? Like,
Yeah.
imagine seeing this movie after seeing all the other movies and then that happens. And you're just like, wait, hold up, what? Like, I would need to see the next one. Like, I couldn't not see the next one after seeing that. So I think that was smart, I guess, even if it, in retrospect, it's dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. In retrospect, knowing what the trash fire that 6 is coming ahead. Yeah, absolutely. But it would have got me, back in '89. Oh, I'm interested to see where exactly this guy is.
Yeah. So I would say that ends our discussion because it's unless you have anything more to say.
Well, what did you think about the Man in Black? We can get your thoughts. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think he's an interesting character. I think it's again, it shows kind of effort in the story. Yeah, I like this mysterious character, a possible connection to Myers, kind of wanting to develop exactly what it is with this character and kind of adding that mystery. The ending, I like it, but it also kind of feels like bait for the next one.
Mhm.
Cliffhangers always leave me with a mixed taste in my mouth because it can be great and it can be really dramatic, but also it's like, oh, here's the bait for the next one. TV shows can get away with it, but in a movie, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Maybe not like a really planned movie series. I can buy it, but no, not here.
That's a good point, especially if you consider, again, back then, like when that movie came out, like unlike us, they couldn't just go watch the next one. They had to like wait and be like, oh, what's gonna happen? So it's the double-edged sword, I guess, of the cliffhanger there.
Yeah. But I have to get going.
Yeah.
right.
But it was really great talking to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really
man.
great talking to you too. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And the radio style intro is I'm gonna send you and do it separately.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Record your lines, record my lines, so do editing. So yeah. Well, then we say bye for now, unless you have anything more to say.
Oh man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
This was
absolutely.
great.
It's been a pleasure talking to you guys as well.